You're listening to the Outfitter Pros Podcast, the show for outdoor enthusiasts by outdoor enthusiasts. On the show, we speak with outfitter owners and outdoor professionals across North America and hear their stories of turning their passion into a profession. Whether you've been in the outdoor industry for years, are thinking of pursuing your own passion as a profession, or simply want to discover new outfitters for your next adventure, this is the show for you. Hey, welcome to the Outfitter Pros Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Wingfield, and on this week's episode, we get to speak with Captain Nickolas Jones from River Rise Fishing Guides. This conversation with Captain Nick was pretty awesome for me. We just got to kind of dive in and hear a little bit more about kind of where his passion for fishing even started. And then we get to hear some pretty amazing ways that not only is he guiding clients and helping them catch some amazing fish on these amazing rivers of the Kasilof and Kenai Rivers in Alaska, but how he's giving back from the revenue that he makes, how he's giving back to a really amazing cause that's really close to his heart as well. So this episode is full of wisdom, some emotion, and just authenticity. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed speaking with Captain Nick. So without further ado, let's dive in and get into the conversation. Man, Captain Nickolas, welcome to the Outfitter Pros Podcast, man. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. I have my coffee with extra shots of espresso, so I'm vibing.
There you go.
Vibing or vibrating, one of the two. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
I know how you're feeling. Doing the same too. So.
Yeah, that's good, man. I'm excited to chat with you today. I'm excited about all that you have going on because currently you got some saltwater fish behind you for those that are watching. But you guide in Alaska.
I do.
Right? Yep. And but you're in Florida right now. And so you work between the two. Now, I want to get into that later on, talking about your guiding and all of your business, like what we're here to talk about. But man, I'm always fascinated about like what even led you to being so passionate about fishing in the first place, So tell me about that. When did you how did you get into fishing even?
So, it's always been a big part of my life. I think I started fishing when I was two or three, obviously with my dad and my grandpa. My dad was always an elevator mechanic, and he wasn't, weekends were his time with us. And so it was between soccer and baseball and football and fishing when we could. So we always took camping trips. But I started fishing when I was two, as soon as I was able to, and as soon as they would take me. And I haven't stopped. My uncle actually ran a charter boat out of San Francisco for his entire life, the Huck Finn. And, it's just been a big part of me. And now I think the biggest thing now is that it's not even necessarily about the fishing. It's more about the fish. And I'm sure we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I've always been about the fish, and I've always been about people catching their first fish, their biggest fish. And some of my biggest and best trips have been with, the 91-year-old lady that always wanted to go to Alaska that, oh, there's my first sockeye. So, it's always been a part of my life in one way or another. And I've tried to get away from it a couple of times just to try something different, because I always thought, oh, maybe there's something more, something different to try, but it always sucks me right back into it. So,
man, now where did you grow up fishing?
I grew up in Southern California. And we fished. There's not too much to fish in Southern California, but we would always go to the San Francisco Bay Area. We'd fish halibut and sturgeon and salmon. And then after school, we would go up to Portland. We'd go to Washington, Eastern Washington, Idaho, pretty much everywhere. So wow. There was a while there where I just traveled and fished. And then, ultimately 5 years ago, 6 years ago or something like that, I ended up down here. And it's like, can't beat the weather, can't beat the fish. You can get rid of the bugs, but other than that, it's pretty amazing. So
yeah, I've got a lot of memories fishing in Florida as well. I think we talked about it on the phone before we were getting on here to record this episode. Man, I remember some of my
earliest memories fishing as well. I remember my dad had me really young. He was like 19, so he's not that much older. I mean, 20 years is a long time. 19, 20 years is a long time. But in perspective, it's like, it's really not.
Yeah.
But I remember being like 3 or 4 and being in a creek, and my dad would be fishing upstream, and he would tie a rope to his waist and tie the other end to my life jacket, and I'm just
Yeah.
floating downstream, just playing, having a blast, and he's just getting it done. And
Nice.
now, because a lot of times what I found in speaking to other people, and even being a dad myself now, is a lot of times people are like, yeah, I grew up, my dad made me go fishing, made me go hunting all the time with him, and now I hate it. So, like, what do you think? And this is totally off the cusp, but like, what do you think there is to making, what do you think your grandfather, your dad did to make fishing enjoyable for you so that you did continue to have this passion for it?
Um, I don't know. I think that like I don't know if they necessarily had to make me. I think it was like the first couple times that we went, like it just like this is what we're gonna do now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like running the guide service in Alaska, like you see people that are like, oh yeah, my dad brought me on this fishing trip because he wanted to go salmon fishing in Alaska and we had to come, and they're like 16, 17, 18 years old. But as you get older and you start like realizing things, maturing and all that stuff,
Mm.
you realize that like it's a good thing that he made you do it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? There's not a lot of dads that like will make you do it.
Yeah.
And like, as we're getting older, we're fathers, whatever, we think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make you do it and take it a couple times. But for me, it was never about making me do it. It was like, man, this is like kind of cool that like my dad did it,
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of dads now that will do that.
Yeah.
So
No, that's really good, man. Intentionality, I think,
yeah,
that's what it takes. That's what
definitely.
anything takes these days. Growing a business takes intentionality, like doing anything in your life takes intentionality. Because if you're just kind of winging it and flying by the seat of your pants, you're probably not going to get a lot accomplished. It's kind of one of my favorite things. What was it? The Patriot. Have you ever seen The Patriot?
Yep.
So the concept of if you aim small, then you miss small. So it's like having these goals, being intentional about accomplishing them, is a big part. And yeah, I'd even like to kind of hear that process of for you, what that was like of the goals that you set for your business. So let's kind of transition into that, right? So you have this passion, your grandfather, your dad, were really intentional in taking you along, making you go with them to experience, this wonderful thing that we love now. And
Hmm.
at what point in kind of your life did you say, man, I really love fishing and I really think I want to make this my livelihood, my profession?
Yeah. We started super young fishing, and like every weekend my grandpa would come pick me up after school. Even we'd go fishing, we'd do whatever. And it wasn't until um my dad started getting like really sick that I started like really like honing in on what I wanted to do. I always knew that I wanted to guide, and I always knew that I wanted to um give people that experience, right? And I started guiding in 2001, I think it was, or 2002, long time ago, right after high school, right after college, basically as soon as I could, right? And for me, it wasn't necessarily about, like I said, it wasn't about the fishing part. It was about seeing people catch fish and like
Mhm.
being the one to like, like cast over there, like there might be fish there, or like sharing that passion with them, right? So as soon as I got old enough to drive, as soon as I got old enough to do things on my own, is when I just started doing it. And then a few years ago, my dad started getting sick, and he ultimately passed away a couple years ago, and that was like really what pushed me. Um, because like some of the last things that we talked about was like, man, you gotta do what you want to do,
Mhm.
and it's like my dad was for the longest time, I mean, he's always been a great dad, great role model, like always there. And to see him like go from, you know, this like dad that always had to take care of everything that like you know, like you didn't have to worry about anything. And then like transition to now we got to like take care of you. Like you weren't able to like do all this other stuff. Like a couple years ago, he came up to Alaska, the season right before he passed away, and last fishing trip, and I've never seen him smile so much. So we didn't get a lot of that growing up, and so when he started getting sick and everything started happening was when I really started getting serious about the company. I wanted to be able to provide the same thing that he had to my clients, and so that's the big lead up to it.
Man, thank you for sharing that with us. That's and I know that that's difficult to see loved ones, pass on.
Yeah.
And man, but what a blessing that is to experience, man, the joy of fishing and what that brings, and it can bring there. That's what I love too about it, right? And there's tons of nonprofits out there, that tap into that, right? Project Healing Waters for vets, right? It's like just getting out there and fishing. There's so much of a restoration healing process that you can go through because of that. And I love that. And like you get to facilitate that with your clients. Like that's pretty sweet, dude.
Oh yeah. That's like that's one thing too, that like you have to like always like humble yourself, right? Because when you're going through the grind and you're going through the season, and like right now, like you're sitting here thinking like, oh man, like what, like this season I'm gonna have a couple guides working with me. I got a couple more guides. Like it's like, how much are we fishing? When are we fishing? Where are we fishing? Like all this type of stuff. But once you get into the grind of the summer and it's like nonstop every day, maybe 2-a-day trips, those people that want to come fish the evening too, you have to like remind yourself that you're in Alaska providing people with trips that they've like thought their entire life for, like they've always like, like for us, it's second nature. It's like, man, I'm going to Alaska this summer. I'm working, I'm fishing. I get to like watch my fish, see what's going on. But there's people that like, you get clients every year that are like, I saved 20 years to come up and do this. It's like, man, like you really have to like, as you're like really digging in and you're trying to like grasp like that 10th or 15th or, even 20th day in a row, you got to remember, like you're providing a service to people that like they've waited their entire life for, and you have to humble yourself. You have to like remember that's like what you're there to do, and that's like the best part of it. So
man, no, that's really good advice too. I think because it can be really easy is to kind of fall into this state of monotony for you, right? You're doing the same thing every day, right? It's like just another day. It's just another day. And I don't think that you have, even just in the time that we've been speaking, that you have the mindset of, oh, you're just another client. Like it seems to me that you're very caring and very, like you just said, like you're very humble in approaching that every client, like this is a lifetime like hopefully not just once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully they come back and fish with you again, right? But like because it's a very destinational place that this does it for a lot of people. This is one of those things that they may do it a couple times in their life, and so you get to facilitate that and be a part of that. And man, I think just starting with being aware of that, man, that's really huge. So when did you officially launch? You said like 5 or 6 years ago you started your business.
Yeah, I started my company in 2018, I think it was 2018. And I have guided for other people. I've taken summers off. When my dad got really sick, I took a summer off and I let, guides fish for me and all that. But I didn't really go hard into it until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, when I really started like doing my own thing because and not to like be negative or talk negatively about anybody, like everybody has their own way of handling their business and handling their clients. And, that's like one thing that I stand behind is making sure that my clients are my clients and they're taken care of and they have their dream trip. Right. Whereas you'll see other guys that are about money, and obviously it takes money to run the business, but the business isn't money. The business is fishing and providing a service to clients.
Yeah.
So when, a few years ago, I made that transition of doing things on my own, how I wanted to do them, my own branding, my own marketing, my own everything pretty much. So yeah, and it's it's been great. It's been a lot of work. It's been great though.
Yeah.
So
So at that point, you'd been working for other outfitters, guiding for, what most guides do, right? Is they're an independent
yeah.
guide. They're working with between other outfitters, just, trying to make a living, right? But like at what point, when you decided like, hey, man, I think I want to start my own business. I think I want to do this for myself. I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to work for me. What were some of those kind of initial challenges that you faced in saying, hey, like I'm going to start my own thing? Like, what were some of those things that were just like, man, this sucks. This is hard. What were those challenges?
Initially the first thing that you think about too is like, um, is the money portion of it,
Mhm.
obviously. Taking things on your own, you have to get out of the mindset that like just because you're working for somebody else and they have their trips booked, that you can do it better,
Mhm.
right? Like you obviously like, yeah, I want to like change things and do things better, but they're established companies that have their own marketing, have their own things. And so you have to like go in the mindset of you're starting fresh, you're starting new, and you're building everything yourself. So you have to make sure that you have the backing to take care of that.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I was worried about, was that I wanted to make sure that my home and my family is taken care of, obviously. Um, and it's always nerve wracking to start a new company. It's always
Mhm.
nerve wracking to go into something completely new, and you don't even know what the heck's going to happen. And in this industry in particular, there's so many variables, especially like with the fish, because like you see all along the West Coast right now, Steelhead shutting down, King's shut down, like it's always something, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So for me, it was that portion of it, was making sure that you had the safety net and the backup pretty much,
Mhm.
to make sure that you're taken care of, and then just handling the marketing portion of it. So
Yeah, man, I think there's so many commonalities that, as I've been, this is episode 24 of this podcast. So like the 24 other stories that I've been, a part of sharing and telling, they're all saying that same thing, is like, when you start something, like the biggest issue is the money, right? Is like you come into it from this place of passion and excitement, and you think, oh man, like I'm gonna launch this and people are just gonna come in and they're gonna love it and they're gonna book trips. And it's like, it's not really that way.
nope.
Like that first couple of years even is really challenging. And so many of them were like, man, I was fortunate enough that I had, kind of a nest egg that allowed me to kind of go through that process and
Yeah.
allowed me to focus my time and commit my time to building this while not really having to worry about paying my bills. And so that's huge, and I was the same way, even in my business, right? It's like my first year, I think I lost like $10,000-15,000. So like I didn't make money, I lost money.
Yeah.
And that's a realistic thing that I don't think a lot of people realize, So
Hmm.
that's, I think, again, it's affirming and encouraging to hear like you say the same thing, like, hey, buckle up, it's going to be a ride, man. So you said another thing, and this is, this always tickles my fancy to talk about marketing, right? It's like, how do I market my business? How do I set myself apart from competition? Because in Alaska, where you fish, I imagine there's pretty staunch competition, right?
Yeah.
So like what were some
Yep.
of those first strategies for you as you started kind of wrapping your mind around marketing and, how do I do this for my business? How do I market my business, market myself? Because honestly, I think outfitters are like 10 years behind when it comes to digital marketing. And we talked about this on the phone. But
Hmm.
so how did you decide with like what marketing strategies that you were going to go with? And what were those for you?
So I mean, initially, like, your first thought is, when you're thinking about this, like, go straight to social media, like,
Mm.
because that's where everybody is. Um, so like we use our social media as basically like a portfolio, right? And so when we went about our marketing, or setting everything up, we wanted like people to know like what we're about. We wanted people to come to our website and feel like us and our brand, right? So like you look at some of this stuff on our site, and we try to like paint a story in the first portion of it,
Mm.
like talking about like, oh, this is what's going to happen, like, good morning, let me share it with you somehow. And we didn't want to like push things down people's throats. We didn't want to like try to sell. We didn't want to like like force it. We wanted everything to be organic and just kind of, go with it. Right. And let the work in our service speak for itself. So we post it on Instagram, and you'll see every once in a while we'll put pictures on there and all that stuff, but we don't really like hit it hard, because even though we want people to see like our website, we want them to see our brand and everything, like we want them to see us. So we really focused on the website and like honing the website in. I don't know if you've noticed, but over the last, like, I don't know, probably 6 months, we've changed it like 3 times, because we'll get it there and we're like, oh man, like I don't really like how this looks or like how this feels like. And that's the thing that I deal with all the time. There's guides up there that, like, there's some really good guides up there that are good at marketing. And we notice, and it's like they spend the time, they build the site, they put a lot of information in their blog and all that stuff. But our biggest thing was working on our SEO and working on the website and making like the website our brand and giving it that feel. And then everything else is just like a portfolio around it. Like if people want to see fish pictures, they can go on our Instagram and see pictures of fish. Like if you look at our main header, there's 2 big, beautiful kings on it. And that's just what we're like. We just like our fish,
Yeah.
So that's what we started doing, was just kind of focusing on our website, and we were testing and moving things around and like adding posts and like little stuff like that. So, but like one thing that we really like over the last few months have focused on is like our conversion rate. So you can get 1,000 people coming to your site and they'll come look at it and all that stuff, but what's like stopping them from booking? Like, is it something that I said? Is it something like more questions? Like, that's like the things that we're working through right now. Is like, what's gonna turn people from a prospective client to our clients?
Yeah, so. That's so good too, and I think that's a lot of a point that a lot of outfitters miss when they have a website. It's like, oh, like I have a website, people will find it. And it's like, no, like you need to do some optimization. So like, conversion rate optimization is a huge thing, because just having a website doesn't mean people are going to book a trip with you, especially if it's, 20 years old. Like, people are definitely not going to book a trip on a 20-year-old site because it's so outdated. Like, you need to update that stuff. But one of the things kind of how and I love you, and you mentioned this, it's like, we're just trying to tell a story about who we are, right? And about the fish. And that's what we love. And I think there's, so Donald Miller, I don't know if you ever heard of Donald Miller. He's the founder of this company called StoryBrand. And StoryBrand marketing is this phenomenal framework that helps people to think about how to market their story, right? Because the issue is, as a business, you are a solution to your clients' problems. So the first thing is like identifying, hey, there's a character in this story. They have a problem. They meet a guide, that has a solution that, when delivers the solution, the character has, a happy ever after kind of story. Like they're better than they were before. And so it's like, how do we start framing that in our minds? And I think that's so much of what I love, is like that creative process of trying to tell that story through images, videos, and text, like to walk people through that. So it's cool to just hear that even though while you're not familiar with StoryBrand, like you're already kind of thinking in that same kind of concept of, and this just makes sense to me, right? To do this. So man, that's really good.
Well, you can't, like, just to add to that, sorry. So
yeah, go ahead.
Like when we think about like booking trips, and like, how are we going to make people think about like what we feel, right? Like, you talk about the StoryBrand, which is like, it's like right in there, like exactly what we're talking about. But like, how do you sell a trip and like share that experience with people? You know what I mean? Like, we get up at 3 a.m, we stop, usually at the gas station, we grab an energy drink and some kind of whatever breakfast bar or something like that, breakfast burrito, and then you're heading to the river and it's like nice and cool, and you like try to make people like think about that. That's like what gets us fired up. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning, you're hopping in the truck, heating it up, driving there, you got the boat behind you, and like, you don't even know what's going to happen that day. You could see bears walking around, you can see a moose, 10 moose. Like, I mean, the Kasilof gets crazy with moose at some points, but how do you make people see that without trying to push a whole bunch of different ads down their throat? You know what I mean? Like, you can sit there and say, come to Alaska, it's going to be the best thing ever. You'll never experience anything else like it. but how do you like make them like see that, without
Yeah.
booking a trip? Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. No,
So
100%. And I think that's a challenging thing for everybody, right? Is like, the value of what you
yeah,
have, what you do, but to try to make other people see that value when they don't even know you. And that's why so much of, the story brand kind of framework, it really helps to establish trust. And so it's like, how are we establishing trust with our target audience? How are
hmm
we showing them that we are the expert on this topic, that we are the best that there is out there? And a lot of that just comes around consistency, right? Intentionality and consistency. And
yeah,
if you can do those two things, you're going to build your tribe of people that begin to trust you and to love you and ultimately want to book with you. So I think that's the other thing is like, yeah, you can be really gung ho and want to try to grow this super quick. And I've always heard this. I think it's an old Chinese proverb or something. It's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so it's
yeah,
like that idea of like building that tribe of people that are your audience. And you're doing that together, letting them buy into your brand, buy into your story, buy into your experience. Because at the end of the day, they're not just buying your business, they're buying into you as a person,
yep.
right?
hmm
Because we have that ingrained in us. Like, we want to be connected with other humans. And so
Definitely.
that's a huge part. And I think just being authentic, right? Like, man, I just want to be me. And, not everybody's going to like me, but there
No.
will be a lot that will. And so that's who I want.
Just need that opportunity.
You just need that opportunity, man. So, man, as you got into kind of running your business and you're putting this intentionality into your SEO, your search engine optimization, right? Showing up on Google, building your website with this framework of just being authentic and being able to try to share like the experience about what you provide with other people. Those early years, getting clients coming in, I'm sure there's been, all kinds of cool experiences and there's been a lot of hurdles and a lot of trials that you've had to kind of go through as well. So, and what's your why behind running your business? Because the reason I asked this question is because, if you're not passionate about what you do, as soon as you hit those walls, those roadblocks, you're going to want to quit. But if you
Yeah.
have a really strong why behind why you're doing this, then that's going to allow you to push through and to break through those barriers to keep moving forward. So, like, what's your why behind running your business?
Um, again, this just comes back to my dad.
Mm,
And for me, it's just like my dad gave his entire life, and there wasn't really like much fun for him out of it. Um, so that's like one of the like that's like for me, that's like one of the best memories that I have with my dad. And I know this is like personal, but if if I were to like the easiest way to say why for me is because I want people to experience the same thing that he did. I
mm,
want people to come up and like enjoy Alaska and take in the sights like ultimately like it's the last thing that they're going to do, right? Like
mm,
I want them to come up and float the river. I want them to catch their first salmon. I want them to just enjoy it. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to do that for them. I want them to be able to
mm. Yeah,
yeah, never mind.
yeah, you're good, man. Take your time.
So I want to be able to provide that for them before they can't do it.
Mhm,
Um that's why I do what I do.
mhm,
I want to be able to be the person to take people down the river to catch their first fish, their last fish,
mhm.
maybe their only fish. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like we talked about before, you know, people take their job as a fishing guide is like it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna get paid to take people fishing, but you're not. You're getting paid to give people a memory that's gonna last forever.
Mm,
So
man, that's really good. That's really good. And I think so much of, as we have these defining ideals of like why we're running our business, that ultimately, begins to shape who you are and it begins to shape how different that you are from other people. right? So, man, I mean, what, as you think about the market up there with all of the other guides, all of the other outfitters doing the exact same thing that you're doing, what really makes you different from other businesses like you? What sets you apart?
I mean, I think that's one of them is I think that we take every client that comes to fish with us, we treat them as family. We do whatever we can to accommodate. I mean, we'll pick our clients up in the morning at their hotels so they don't have to worry about, finding the place, parking. Um, we just do our best to go the extra mile for our clients.
Yeah.
And every day that's a constant reminder that, we're just there to make people's memories. And so that's just what, that's just kind of what we do. That's like what I feel sets us apart. You can go on you can go on Google right now and you can type in Kenai River fishing or Kasilof River fishing, and you're going to get 25 different sites that look almost exactly the same.
Mm.
And they're all going to say, man, like, come catch the biggest king salmon of your life, like the world famous king salmon, 9 million freaking sockeye come up here every year. You can come catch 50 of them in a day, right? And so like you can keep pushing trips and you can keep like selling trips to people, and people are going to come up and they're going to fish and they're going to do that. But with us, it's an experience.
Mm.
And that's what we like pride ourselves on, is that we turn our clients into family, and anything what we can do for them, within reason, we'll do it. And so, um, what that's what I feel sets us apart in a big way.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's really good. And I mean, I think too, a part of that, right? I was just looking at your website earlier, and man, you've got a red banner there at the bottom that talks about, and that you're given for 2024, 5% of every single trip booking that you book this year, you're going to donate to Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So like,
yeah.
man, talk about that. Share a little bit about, what do you, where does this come from? What's this for?
So I'll try to do this without crying, just because,
Yeah.
it's dad. So in 22, I lost my dad to, um, it's called AML. It's acute myeloid leukemia.
Mm.
And it was crazy because it went from him being okay and fishing with me in Alaska in like 4 months to like, I watched him take his last breath. So, so every trip that we book, no matter how many people, when it is, how many trips, whatever, every trip I mean, we're starting it in 2024. We did a little bit in 23. We're really starting in 24. 5% of all trips, all the profits go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And that's in honor of my dad.
Mm.
So if we can help in any way, we will.
Yeah. No, man, that's really good. And I mean, I think it just shows your level of, man, just compassion. Like, because I think not everybody has, tapped into that heart level, right? Like there's a lot of people out there that, like you said earlier, are just about butts and seats, and they're just about the money. They're about just taking people down the river. As many as they can get, the better. But man, like, and so I want to say this to encourage you, like that. I think that is a big factor of what sets you apart is, man, like your heart to be generous, your heart to give, your heart to make a difference. And
Thank you.
man, I think that's encouraging for me to see that, because that's a big part of your passion, right? Is man, I want to give an experience, but even with this, it's like, man, I want to give back into the society that can help to do more research, that can help to, find a cure. Ultimately, is what these societies are for.
Yep.
So that other people, can have more opportunities to go out there and fish, to go out there
Yeah.
and live, to go out there and enjoy life. So man,
Well, you
I
can.
man, I'm encouraged by that. So man, thank you for just being a generous person
Yeah,
and
of course.
putting putting your time, talent, and resources into to things that matter. So, and as you
Glad to do
had to cough there, sorry.
it. It's all right.
So as you have been doing this, and I'm sure that there are a ton of answers for this question, but over the past, 5 to 6 years that you've been running your business, what has been one of the most memorable experiences that you had? It could be, totally related to being on the river, doing something, for guiding, or it could be totally unrelated to that, that has just been this memorable experience that you've got to have as a result of starting your business.
Um, I mean, for me, it's just meeting all the cool people, and like I've met people from all walks of life, like the 1 and 2 year old to, 90, 95.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, it's crazy because like 2 years ago, I think it was, this lady, one of my clients, had almost the same thing that my dad had, and she had Parkinson's as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so she could barely fish, right? And it was like like the way that we were raised, we were like really family oriented. Like we help out. That's what we do. And I was sitting there trying to help her, and she's like, "No, I'll get it. Like I need to get my first one myself. I've never caught a sockeye." Okay. So like for me, it's like being able to see just like be there for people when they like enjoy these moments in their lives. You know what I mean? Like life's just so short. And like when you get to like be part of that and be a reason for that, like that's just like that's why I do what I do, and that's like a direct result of like all this work that I'm putting in is, at the end of the day, you're paying your bills, but there's always going to be more bills. There's always going to be, I got to do this better. I got to put more money into this. I got to fix that, and there's always going to be more bills no matter what. But putting all this time and effort and everything into like booking clients, and you're basically just doing it so that you can do more for them.
Mm.
That's like why I do what I do, like I want to be able to provide them that service. And that's like that's what I get out of doing this company. That's why I get out of spending all this time doing this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I've had like some clients the last couple of years. Like I had this little fireball kid. I think she's on my Instagram. I think she's like 4, I think it was. Oh man, she was a little firecracker. So we were silver salmon fishing and just bobber and jig fishing, and she was barely like big enough or old enough to do anything like on her own, right? And she hooks this massive silver and starts jumping, tearing her up, and we were fishing at a portion where there's Glacial River and Clear River, so it's just like the confluence there. And so as you're sitting there fishing, like there's this big drop off that's like 6 feet. So I kept holding on to the back of her life jacket so that she wouldn't like slide in there. And she kept getting so pissed off at me. She's like, let go of me, let go of me. I can do it myself. And she would get so angry. And then I went to net it, and she said, don't net it, I'm doing it. And like she took everything herself. Like it's like, man, you like,
Wow.
you want to be hired in a few years? You can come work for me. So that's like we got to see cool stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
So
Man, that is pretty cool. It reminds me of my 7-year-old daughter. She's very headstrong. And
yeah.
I remember when she was 2, we went to the beach, and she's like she can been walking for like a year. And it's like she just like she's not even scared of the ocean. And I remember we're playing in the sand, and like she just takes off like running straight into the water. No fear, like just and she gets hit by this wave and topples over. And she comes up and she just like has this grin on her face. And I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You were a crazy little girl.
I remember looking back as that was happening. She was like, that little girl was yelling at me. Like she was a firecracker. She was yelling at me, and like I looked back at her mom and dad, and they were just both laughing. They're like, just let her do her thing. And I was like, oh, whatever.
Man, yeah, that's cool. And I mean, the fact that, and again, too, like I think there's so many people that are listening to this that and are doing the same thing that you're doing. There's several people that are listening that are kind of like looking for experiences like that. And then there's several people that are like, man, I would love to do that someday. I would love to pursue my passion someday. And the fact that you get to do this for a living, man. Like there's hard days for sure, but man, how like that's just super rewarding, doing something that you love. They've always said that if you have a job that you love, you'll never work another day in your life. And man, that's I think that's so true. And so as we as we think about that, even the people that are listening to the show right now, right, that are just like you, that are looking for their next experience, or the one that is thinking about launching a business, I want to talk to that last person, the person that has a passion for whether it be being a fishing guide, being a river guide, being a raft guide, hiking guide, whatever it may be. But they have this passion and the gears are turning in their head of like, man, could I do this? Could I turn this into a business? Could I turn this into my profession? What would you say to that person that's thinking about launching an outfitter or a guiding business? What would you say to them to encourage them?
Do it. Just do it. If you have any of that like feeling or an inclination to do anything like this, you're gonna have your hard days. You're gonna have your days that just plain suck. You're gonna have days that you can't get a fish to bite to save your life, you know. But you know, if you have any passion or any like feeling towards anything like this, just take the chance and do it. And if you start doing it and it doesn't work out, find something else to do. But there's nothing more rewarding to me than being able to do this all the time. And that's like a big part of it is just staying humble and like staying like working in that direction. You know, and then having people like my dad to push me, you know, it's just like, yeah, I mean, if you have any inclination at all, just do it and get it done. Work hard. So treat people good, work hard, stay focused and make it happen.
Yeah, man, that's good. There's a lot of commonalities, I think, even, between the other people that are saying, answering this question. And it's like, man, find a mentor, find somebody that's going to push you, find somebody that's going to kind of walk with you through this journey. And I've always heard too, is like the 5 people that you surround yourself with, that's what you're going to be like. That's what you're going to turn into. So it's like, find people that you aspire to be, that have the things that you want, that are at that place in life that you want to be. And it doesn't have to just be, they make bukus of money or whatever. Like, find the people that you want to be like. That could be personality, character, whatever stature of life they're in, and learn from them. Be humble and learn. I think that we live in a society today that is very much kind of the opposite of just like, oh no, I know everything. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. I'm the expert on this. It's like, no, well, you've got a lot to go. Like, you may know a lot, but there's a lot that you could learn, And so I think there's a lot that that having humility can really just help us to grow. So that's really good, man. Wise words from a wise man. So, man, Captain Nickolas, as kind of we're wrapping up here, where can people find you, man, if they want to come and book a trip with you or check out the fish? Like, where can people connect with you at?
So the easiest way is to go to riverrisefishing.com. My personal phone number and our contact information is all over the site. If you're looking to book a trip, availability is on there. And it's by species. So if you want to come up and go king salmon fishing, it's on there, sockeye, whatever. But the easiest way is just shoot us a message. There's contact forms all over the site. We're always, paying attention to our email. But yeah, I mean, that's the easiest way. Just hop on the site and get a hold of us. So.
Sweet. And I'll have links to that as always in the show notes for today's episode. So you can check that out and find him on all of the places that he's available online.
Sounds good.
Man, hey, Captain Nickolas, I appreciate your time this morning. I appreciate you just being willing to be authentic and share what's on your heart and mind with us. I don't take that for granted. So thank you for being willing to do that and trusting us with that. So.
Oh, thank you as well. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, looking forward to watching your journey, and man, hopefully one of these days, man, I'm gonna come out and see you in Alaska and take a trip with you for sure.
I always have a space for you.
So. All right, man. Captain Nickolas, take care, man.
You too.
Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Outfitter Pros podcast. This entire journey has been just an amazing experience for me, and I have you to thank for that. And I just want to say how grateful I am for your company on this podcast. So if you enjoyed today's episode and you want more tales and tips and insights from guides and outfitters, don't forget to go over to our YouTube channel and our podcast and subscribe to it. Your support really helps us to bring more of these stories to life and gives us the ability to connect you with other outfitters and guides across the country that can inspire you to turn your passion into your profession. So until next time, stay passionate, people.